How's it going, people, and welcome back to SYNTHO Hub. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you 5 different techniques that can help you get out of the loop stage. It's something that's happened to us all. We've had this really nice idea rolling and we just don't know how we can turn this from a 8 to 16 bar loop into an actual full track. So here's some ideas, tips and techniques that are going to help you push yourself and get out of that horrible loop stage. So my first tip is going to be using Session View to really help arrange your track. I've got this loop here. And this is a really cool idea. I'm really liking it, liking the synth that's going on there. Good energy. But if I'm stuck in this hot constant loop going, I really need some things to help turn this into a full track. So what I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using all these different scenes here in Session View to help create the start and basis of my arrangement. So I've got here this main section, and first of all what we can do is we can remove some elements to try and create a breakdown. So if I just duplicate this over here, bring this down underneath, and let's say get rid of the percussion and the drums here. So let's name this break, and this is going to be main, and here I've got an exact duplicate of this one here, so I'm going to name this acid in, because I'm bringing this acid to the synth here, and then I've got this sort of stab in. So, and what I've got here is already the basis of an arrangement, because all I'm doing really is adding these extra elements, and I've got from main and already, so I've now created this break here, and it's just starting to become the basis of a track. So I have this here. So now I'm thinking, how can I push this further? So all I can do is simply duplicate this and think, right, let's add some more variety. So maybe to create more of an intro here, I'll get rid of this 909 hat. Okay, that becomes more of an intro. And we can even go a step further and get rid of some more elements here. So now we've got a full intro for our, when we mix in, and then now we've got the bass coming in there. And I'm using these scenes here to really help divide and arrange my track. This really helps with my workflow, because then what I can do is have these distinct sections, so I'm not just sitting with this constant loop. Because I could sit here all day long and listen to that, but what you really need to do is actually take those extra steps to break up the track as much as possible in order to become the basis of our arrangement. So the next step in order to help us get out of the loop stage is probably the most crucial one, which is actually start to arrange it, even if the track isn't really done yet. I think it's really easy to wait for when you've got everything perfect and ready to go, but in actual fact, sometimes you just need to push yourself, step out of the loop stage and just go do it. I've been one to sit here all day and think, oh no, how can I get out of this loop stage? And in actual fact, what has really helped me finish a track off is just by going, let's arrange it, and hopefully I'll have some more ideas come along as we go through that process. So we've obviously been using the scenes in Session View to create these sections in our tracks. Obviously we've got the intro, bass in, break, etc. And this only came about from basically just adding and removing a few extra elements in the percussion sections. So now that we've got that, what we're going to do is we're going to take our sounds from Session View and add them into Arrangement View. So I'm going to make sure we are on the one downbeat, very first start of the bar, by pressing the stop button, and then we're going to start with our intro and press record here. This is the arrange record button. So this is going to be recording the sounds we have from our session view and going into arrangement view. So as you can see here, it's now starting to record this into here. And then I might go into here now. And what's great about it is you can turn elements on and off. So you can actually play these in live to create these more sort of unique arrangements as you go through the process. So I might just not have that top synth come in. And then I might turn the kick on in a sec. Because I really want everything to kick in about 1 minute, bar 33. So it's not perfect. I appreciate that was a bit blocky, but what we want to try and do is have the basis of our arrangement. I'm not trying to create the perfect track here. I'm just trying to push myself so we're not just sitting in the loop stage all day long. I might go to the next section now. All I'm doing is pressing enter on these scenes, and it'll play everything along this row. Have another bar, a few bars of this. Take out the kick, and by arranging this live on the fly, you can help just do things you wouldn't normally do by moving your mouse about. This is a huge benefit of using session view. So I heard there, actually, that flowed slightly. I mean, it was nice, but also I'm thinking we can actually help elevate this even further. So to help a bit of flow, maybe what we can do is duplicate this here, and I'm going to remove all of the percussion here just to add a bit of variety in the arrangement. Yeah, so then I'm going to redo this, and this is the beauty of it, is I'm going to set back to that point we were going to be using, and then I'm going to press record here, and this is now going to create that new section. Take it out, bring it. So maybe from here then we can maybe think about doing our breakdown. But if I show you here, now we've got the basis of an arrangement going into that new section. The sound is so much nicer. So by recording using the record button and playing things in with session view, you can first of all be a bit more hands-on with the process by turning things on and off and experimenting. Sometimes it's not always going to work, but also you're pushing yourself so you're not going to be stuck listening to a loop all day long. And this is really the point of it, is to not just sitting there with a loop and thinking, oh, waiting for an idea to pop up, but actually putting yourself in a position where you can be creative, which is then what really pushes us to finish the track and get it done. So our next tip we're going to be using to help us get out the loop stage is trying to think of new sections in our arrangement. We've obviously spoken about using the different scenes in Ableton to help separate each section and create more of an arrangement in our track. But actually sometimes what we struggle with is trying to actually think of new ideas for that section. So what we can do is actually use some techniques to help us get some inspiration from ideas. And the first thing we can use is so what we can do is to help push some new ideas for our track is use things such as sampling. I am going to obviously one technique we can use to help push new ideas for our track is sampling. Now, first of all, we can obviously sieve through a load of records and listen out for inspiration. Or in this case, I'm going to be using something from a pack just for a bit of speed and clarity. So I know that this track is in D sharp, so I've went and found a synth loop which is in the key of D sharp minor to be specific. So I'm going to drag this on and have this for this section here. So it's quite loud. Just make sure we need to bring this down. And this instantly, then by again, if you see that I duplicated this over and then I've got a new section and I've now got an extra element here. And this has just basically pushed our arrangement just that little bit further. So again, I've gone from this one section here by duplicating it over and then dropping in this loop. I mean, obviously I'm using a loop in this case for the sake of being royalty free, but you can go and find and sift through samples as well as records, go for a dig, find some more vinyl and just find some things that could maybe work in to bring in as new sections for your tracks. One thing it's really important to note though is that if you are going to sample a record, then you need to make sure you have clearance for that sample in order to release it, which is why I'm using this particular loop from a royalty-free sample pack. But again, this is something that's really overlooked from a lot of producers, is they are trying to create something from scratch, and sometimes you simply need to find something that works rather than necessarily something that has to be 100% original from yourself. A great record and example of this would be Like a Glove by Gene on Earth. He sampled a really famous house track for that, and yet he has dropped it in and it just works amazingly well for his track, and it just elevates the arrangement, which is really the key thing we're trying to do here, is to have a greater arrangement for our tracks, and which was going to really take us out of the loop stage. So we've obviously used this loop here, but in actual fact what we might want to do is have a bit more control over it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this audio sample. I'm going to have a MIDI channel prepped and ready. So I've got this pad here and I'm going to drag this over onto the MIDI channel. And then I'm going to convert the audio to MIDI. In this case, I'm going to use harmony, but you can obviously use a melody if it's a more sort of lead sound, and obviously drums if it's drums. I'm going to choose harmony for this, and it's going to convert the audio into MIDI here. Now, it has got a not perfect, but a rough sense of that harmony. There's obviously a lot more MIDI notes going on here, but what I can do is sieve through these, get rid of the unnecessary ones, and we've got the basis of that harmony. And the reason why I've done this is because this can now be the basis of a chord progression or a lead that we can write ourselves and edit. Because we've now got this MIDI which is fully at our will to control, this can now be the basis of a new idea which can then help push our arrangement and get us again out of that loop stage. So our next tip that we're going to look at is going to be a real key part in how we can push our tracks further. And it's a real sort of thing that aligns with our arrangement, is how can we push our track further. So we've obviously, say for example, this was our loop stage that we were stuck in, and we had this rolling and rolling and rolling, and this is obviously great. It sounds good, there's some really nice elements going on here, there's good high energy, you know, it'd be the basis of a really good club track. But sometimes you need to ask yourself questions in order to help push your arrangement further. And one of those questions would be have I achieved my hook yet? You know, there's going to be 1,000,001 tracks which have a great bass line in them. There's going to be so many tracks which have amazing percussion in. But what is going to be the thing that makes someone go when they come home from a rave? Do you remember that track with this in it? Do you remember that track that went... There's going to be something that makes the listener want to come back and listen again, or at least remember the track from when they heard it, when it was played out. And this is really something that can help me in myself when I'm trying to think of new ideas for my track. This is obviously a great foundation. What's going to be the hook that really draws the listener in? And this is really what pushed me to then write this top line. Is it going to be a vocal? Is it going to be a synth line? What's going to be the thing that makes the listener go, wow, I need to listen to this track again? There's going to be something memorable. It might be that the bass line is so standout that, you know, then it's going to be stuck in the head all day. But you need to be conscious and think, what is going to be the element that really brings it all together and acts as that hook? It could be a vocal, you know, it could be something that they could sing along to. It might be even just a little snippet of a sound that is memorable that then gets stuck in the head all day, and then they have to go on a hunt for this track. And really that's something that can help push you out of the loop stage, because then you're thinking, okay, I'm stuck on this all day long, but now I need to write a new element on top. So this might be I'd be going, I'm now going to write a new top line for this synth. So maybe we'll record something in. And I've just then, on the fly, just written this little melody. And this is going to be something that the listener's going to really attach to. This is going to be that kind of thing that they go, oh wow, that's just a cool sound. And this is really going to be what has pushed me every time to get out the loop stage, is going from this really cool track into something that's actually stand out. And again, having a hook is really going to help push that further. And so for our final tip, we're going to be looking at how we can add more variety into our loop sections. So at the end of the day, dance music is repetition. It's repetitive percussion, it's repetitive bass lines, and also it's repetitive synth lines and top and even vocals, etc. So there's a lot of repetition going on in dance music. And what we can do is to help break up that sort of feeling of it becoming a loop is by adding as much variety in sections as we possibly can. And sometimes, obviously I've spoken about adding new synth lines and all these sort of extra sections like that, but sometimes we don't want to add too much of a drastic change to the sound we're creating. So I've got this rolling here, and this will be a really nice section. But I'm going to try and add a bit more variety to this, but in a subtle way. So what I can do is by adding, say, a new percussion layer to help elevate the arrangement, and then also giving it less of a feeling of it being just one constant loop as we go along. Because really that is the key to adding variety into dance music, is literally just adding and taking away elements over the core sounds of our loop at the end of the day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, again using these scenes to help separate all these new sections. I'm then going to go into our percussion group, and I'm now going to add a new MIDI channel. So I'm going to listen out. It's going to be some sort of sound that I can add on top of this. So maybe we could start with a 909 snare drum. Just make sure this isn't too loud. I want quite a nice splashy one. There we go. That's quite nice. So now, to add a bit of variety, I'm going to add this percussion layer. So we go from this section here, and we're not actually changing the sound much, but we're just adding extra percussion layer. And already now we have pushed ourselves out from a 16 bar loop into, say, a 32 bar loop. And we can do this a step further again. So now that we've added that extra percussion layer with the 909 snare drum, we can maybe then add a ride or something. I think it might go into, let's try the 808, maybe add some cymbals. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, just have it kind of as a, let's make sure it's not on the wrong channel. Yeah, okay. So now let's record this in. So now here we have an evolution from main section. Now we're bringing up this 909 snare drum. And now we've got this extra little sort of cymbal coming in, like just a release. And this has instantly taken us from a 16 bar loop to potentially a whole phrase just by adding some extra little percussion layers. And what this is doing, again, is elevating our arrangement, which is really the key to getting out of the feeling of being inside a loop, is literally just pushing our arrangement as far as we can. And we don't, again, like I said, we don't have to necessarily be writing these brand new synth lines and really drastically having a whole brand new section of the track with, you know, something that's completely different and contrasting from what we've done. We can simply use these little tricks of adding a snare drum and an extra little ride just to give the illusion that our track is evolving. Really, we're just bringing in a few more elements. And then we can then go into a break section again, like we said, just by removing those elements again. Because really, that's all it is. So hopefully you have found this video useful. These are just a few things that I use personally to help me get out of that loop stage. We've all been there, we've all been listening to something and it sounds great, but sometimes we just get stuck. And so hopefully these tips are going to help you just push that a little bit further and help you turn that loop into a full and finished track. Let us know if you have enjoyed this video. Drop a comment below if you have found a particular tip useful, and also if there's something specific you want to hear and learn about, then drop it below and I will get on it straight away.